Sudath, thank you very much for joining us for this interview.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and
My pleasure. So,
so you have got a big position to be the organizer of the Colombo district. How challenging is this?
it is challenging because now, just after the aftermath of the presidential election, so we were not that successful. And this time we want to make a go at it and to have a strong government formed because the executive presidency has so many facets now. So if the wrong person gets into his hands, he can be a dictator. So a strong government will put a check and balance into it, and so he won't be able to flex his arms, the way he wants to, because there won't be any arbitrary rule. So you have to somehow block it, or balance of power comes into play. So that is the main challenge, is to get into power at this stage, to form a government, not to be in the opposition, but to form a government. So to see that the country is taken to whatever now the future of the country, we went through the Aragale, and during that time there was a lot of uncertainties and turbulent period. So now it is gradually easing off, but then again we can't face such a situation again. So because of that, we need the opposition, not a strong government, in order to steer the country throughout. Still we have not come out of the problem that we are faced with, but to steer it out of the problem. So we have a good team. So it's a challenge. Of course, it's a challenge, since that we don't have the presidency. So the inclination towards voting towards that party may be there amongst the mindset of the people. But then again, I will tell you later, now things are not the same. That's what I should say. Just after the general election, there were so many promises made, promises given. Even we were waiting till people were apprehended, airports were closed, they were taken in, nothing happened. And then when it comes to the government servants, the usual story, they were promised salary hikes, and now they say no, it's not there. Now only they have come to know about it. But what they said was, yes, we will do it, and that they will get the dollars from abroad and to pay off all our debts. So these stories have now become a little bit of a fairy tale. So it is not happening. So we need a young crowd, a good leader like Mr. Sajith Premadasa, and he has a good team with him. And I'm also fortunate enough to be in part of that team, and to see that we have to have also economic sense as to how it's economically driven, the country. So how this could be done. So if it's economically driven, we should know the positives of it as well as the downside of it. Now, I myself, being in the corporate sector and representing some of the corporates, listed companies as an independent director, I have a fair knowledge as to how this formation is, like the difficulties what we face, and it is not what you play to the grassroots. You can say things, but people are not willing to buy it now. So this is the traditional way of doing it, giving something and then trying to appease them and to get their vote. It is not happening. Now, with the system change, I have to put it in a perspective. That's what I'm saying. With the system change, we wanted something to happen. No one had really interpreted what this system change is. So what we want is, what I see in the system change is, this economic reforms has to be there, and then the social reforms also, especially the culture of our country has to be protected, but at the same time the reformations have to take place, and that is where we are. But what happened is, people mistook that to something else. They said 225 people all go home, including the ones who are now holding the position of the executive presidency, all go home. Of course, now he is not in parliament, so he'll excuse that fact as he is now our president. And so all go home, and we have to bring in a new set of people. So NPP was successful. We have to accept the fact that they came up with this very frugal things, like very like without flaunting much, simple life, simple things, simple statements, which gets addressed to the hearts of the people. Very small, very simple messages they were conveying, and that people took to it, and they bought it, and they thought, okay, we will have this, all these things what they are promising. Now they have realized, no, you can't. Now they say, we have only 3 ministers, we can't do it, let's go for election, we'll form our own government. You don't have to have an opposition, like what their inclination is to have one government rule. So If that happens, as I said, it will be arbitrary rule. So there won't be any checks and balances, and it will be free for all. So it is not going to happen. And the society, again, without the modernization and reformation, without that, the society itself is now wondering what is happening now. They say a religious, like, there is nothing, like you don't give, like in the constitution itself, what we always propagate and we try to adhere to and which we respect. What they say is, okay, we'll change the constitution and we will make it a secular government, a secular country, right? Now we are talking about Buddhism being given the position,
Topmost.
like the topmost, where we are saying it will be respected, protected by the government. Without all those things, what they say is we'll make it a secular thing, which is open, where anyone can practice his own religion, and we are not going to have that. But the thing is, the culture of this country is embedded with the religion. So there are things which we have to follow. I am not saying that we are stuck with it and that we are going back to a primitive stage or whatever. But what I am saying is the modernization takes place like in Japan, but the culture has to be kept, because we have our own identity. Otherwise, we lose our identity and we are nobody.
Okay. But Sudath, if I heard correctly, your leader, Mrs. Premadasa, has openly said that he is willing to work with Antakumar Disanayak and even like former government, and he work with him. So that's a different message that he.
No. What he is, I think his ideology is, or what he is thinking is, okay, country at this stage, country comes first. So in the event if he needs any help, even at this stage, that we are prepared to work with him, that we won't obstruct what he is trying to do for the betterment of the country. But if there are other ill effects taking place, of course, yes, then we will have to say no to it and put a stop to it. But if it augurs well for the country and for the economy, and he needs support of the opposition, then yes.
Right.
Because the government is not there, it is actually, we can't call ourselves an opposition, yes. But as the former opposition, right, that we can give him a helping hand, right, to take it. But our primary objective is to form a government.
Right. Okay. And now the Colombo is the bastion of Green Party, whatever color it is now. So unfortunately now the Green has been divided, and you were originally started with the elephant, and now you have come to SJB, yes, right? Don't you think that had you been united, this would have been much easier?
I think so. But what happened was this, we have a young leader. One thing is that we have to admit the fact that you need a good leader, young crowd. Because Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, of course, yes, because of him only I also went to the United National Party. But then what happened was there we lost our identity. Now there is no elephant, there is no party, there is no color. So it's not there now. So suddenly it became the gas cylinder. And when I was organized for Maharagama electorate, and suddenly I see so many people coming to Maharagama with different faces, different colors, different shapes, but now people have lost their identity. It doesn't have to be a party. I won't say that Kapuat Kola and Kapuat, Nil story. But the thing is, people need to have some identity, where they belong to, some ideology. When you are in a confused state, when you do not have a proper vision as to where you are going, where the country is heading, then we have a problem, because it's in a confused state. So I myself was getting confused there, because suddenly, and this time's list, if you take, UNP has only 6 slots. All the others are from different parties, and they come under different name also. So I left just before the presidential elections, though I was invited, but I stayed on. But now we have a vision, we have a party, we have a policy. Because if we do not have a proper policy, we can't steer the country. Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is a good leader, but whether they can steer it the way that Mr. Premadasa is planning to do, I have my doubts, because the thing is, it's a total confused thing. So his ideas are there, other people's ideas are there, who runs it, who manages it, it's a problem. But when it's a party, there is a vision, there is a policy, there are certain norms that you adhere to, and so we know whether it's rightist party, leftist party, whatever the parties, you have to have that. Otherwise, you can't take the country forward.
And now, as you said, rightly said about the Aragalya, the echo from the public was we have to get out of 225 people. That says about the traditional politics. So people have given up. They have discarded the traditional politics. Do you think that you can revive this?
I have a feeling that's why I said the interpretation of this Aragali. They were talking about these traditional parties, get rid of them. All are rogues, all are corrupted fellows. They have yielded to corruption and that type of thing. But it's not the traditional party politics. They were against that, people coming and setting up a corrupt government and, doing things, and they suddenly realize, okay, this is not our fate. These fellows have been robbing us. So we want them out, those who have robbed us. So Aragale, the outer side of that was to get rid of these corrupt people. But inner side of it is they wanted certain changes. The young wanted change, which I don't know whether the young themselves have realized what their needs are like. Because suddenly they say, okay, that is 225, go out. And then what do you want? What are the reformations? What are the economic reformations? What are the social reformations? So that is the one where the leaders have to come in and say, okay, this is the reformation that has to take place, or this is the way to steer the country out of this debt crisis, and this is the social standing of the country, because you have to have your identity, and this is the standing of the country, and with that you do the changes, reformations accordingly, and then try to appease to the people. Like for education, all want to be educated, and they have to be given that facilities to do that, and then they will come from there. They have hope that they have something to do in this country, that we won't be thrown onto the streets. Most of the people, sometimes we find, yesterday also I found a person, I asked him, have you worked anywhere or what? Then he said, no, I don't, I lost my job. And I asked, what, so what were you doing? No, he had been doing a normal menial job but he's an arts graduate. Now these aspirations never materialized, what they had when they got into campus. Those are the things that I think we should address and give the young people a chance, that and a belief, to believe in them that they have a future in this country. Because people started leaving the country and so many issues came up. I am just touching on one angle, one aspect of it. So which we have not been able to do. For years it had been there, arts graduates are out. And some people say the senior most arts graduates don't know anything about it, but they are in the planning and policy planning and things like that of the government as secretaries. So, but this is a confused area which we have to address immediately.
Right. But you said there is now for over the last 1 month you have seen something different, not what they promised.
Yes.
Now what their basically allegation is, for 70 years, 70 long years, these two parties, including SJB or partly UNP, they have been ruling the country, but they had ruined. And at one stage, the Prime Minister, she was not the Prime Minister at that time, but she was telling, for sure we will never bankrupt the country. When they ask about the experience, so isn't it unfair for them to assess their work within a 1 month period? And
What you're saying is the present
government, NPP.
No, what I'm saying is, yes, you should give them a chance to perform themselves. But the performance, the indicators are there in the first month, like how we are going to do. So if they have faltered in the first few months, not knowing the policy how they are going to drive the country, then we have a problem. They said $200 will come from there, then someone else will bring some other thing, and all our friends will commit themselves and send dollars to the country, and we can do so. But by yesterday, 100 billion was printed, and before that treasury bills. So many things happening. Now earlier there was, now my understanding is, okay, IMF said no printing of money, but it has started now. So with this itself, inflation will come in, and so many things. So are they aware of what they are doing, or what type of governance are they planning to do? So for that, I personally feel, why I said was my background a little bit, to show people without just being plunged into politics without any knowledge, to show the background of the people as to what they have done. So in the corporate sector, in the media, like, and things like that, what we have seen, what we have experienced, and what we can give the country. But here, once you come in here, I don't know whether they have that with them. I'm not saying no, not that they don't have, but the indicators are how are they going to formulate them, how are they going to address this. So that type of situation has risen. So that's what I'm saying, as you said, maybe we should give them, not maybe, we should allow them. But with this little bit of 2 to 1 month, 2 weeks to 1 month, I don't think, I'm not happy.
Right. Okay. And actually, there are some politicians who said that we are going to impeach the president, we can topple the government. But provided that you get a sound majority, are you willing to go with this president, or are you going to
No,
topple
I
the
think
government?
as I said before, no, we will go with the government.
Right.
Unless we form our own government with our own prime minister, which of course not to go against again because he is the president. But actually we can correct him if he is on the, if he is drifting around, then of course always there is the opportunity of putting him on the correct path. Like that's the duty of the legislature.
Yes.
With the formulation of laws and given all these acts which are enacted in parliament. So those could be done, could be monitored, and those could be brought to a certain standing where we know that we can go ahead with those, because sometimes you can enact a statute, but if you can't implement it, there is a problem.
Right.
So implementation part also is there, because we can see during Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa's time, there were so many gazettes were played.
Yeah.
Printed, withdrawn, and he said, my word is a gazette.
Right.
You know, that it came to that level. So the laws, no one knew what was happening. That's a precursor to the Aragale happening. But here I think that we should go together and have a steady government here in place.
Thank you very much, Sudath.
Thank you so
all
much.
the best for the campaign and also the
Thank you
election.
so much for welcoming me here to the studios, and it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much.